From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, where cricket scooped a lot of awards at the Sports Journalists Association annual dinner during the week. Of course, there was the World Cup Super Over, an astonishing Ashes victory at Headingley, which all contributed to TV and radio programmes, including the BBC picking up gongs. So I guess we should just say thank you to Ben Stokes, because he really helped everybody in the media make compelling programmes out of and his teammates' extraordinary performances. But yeah, a good night during the week was had by all.
It's Jim Maxwell for the ABC in Sydney, and I should mention that Grandstand presenter Karen Ty got a Lifetime Achievement Award during the week from Sport Australia, a significant recognition for her outstanding work in all the sport that she's done on radio and TV for a long while. But it's hard to know where to look at the moment with the Women's T20 on and Australia having the wobbles at the start of the tournament. Then in South Africa, Australia beating South Africa in the T20 series thanks to Warner, Finch and Smith's batting mainly. And then there's the Sheffield Shield. Yes, that's on again. And New South Wales, with a win today, are ahead in the competition as they have been for most of the season. So it's cricket everywhere you look.
And I'm Sunil Gupta for All India Radio in New Delhi. And as we creak into spring and get over the aftermath of Donald Trump's visit here to India, it's good to see that the Indian women are doing very well in the T20 World Cup, and more power to their elbow, because I think they're making up a little bit for what the men are experiencing in New Zealand.
Yeah, we're going to be talking more about the T20 World Cup in just a moment for sure. And been following England's fortunes, absolutely. A bit of a wobbly start for them, but coming back stronger. Now, if you were listening to last week's show, you would have heard an interview with one of New Zealand's greatest male batsmen, Ross Taylor. He was about to play his 100th test against India in Wellington. So we thought we'd better just wrap things up by checking in on how he actually did, having spoken to him. He actually only needed to bat once, scored 44, because Sunil, New Zealand thumped the mighty India by 10 wickets, and India didn't make it past 200 in either innings. What happened?
Oh, don't rub it in. I've got a million things I want to say about that. But frankly, if you ask me, the portents of what happened at Wellington were there to see through the T20 and the ODI series. And I'll tell you about a couple of them. First of all, the T20, even though India won 5-0, could easily have been the other way around. It could have been 4-1. Or 3-2 to New Zealand. And then, if you look at the three-match ODI series, India could not defend 347, they could not defend 300, and they couldn't chase 273. And this is despite the fact that Kane Williamson was not playing the first two ODIs. So that's where I think it started going all pear-shaped for India. And then, of course, in the test match, despite the fact that they lost the toss, all the old failings resurfaced, playing with hard hands, playing swishing outside the off stump, getting bogged down, not being able to play the short ball. So the thing that actually got me, and I've spoken about this before, is what I call the famous tail wag. If you remember, on day one, India were 122 for 5, and we were all out for 163. On day two, New Zealand ended the day at 117 for 5, and then we're out for 348 with numbers 9 and 11 scoring 80 runs. Now, you can't afford to do that in a test match, especially a low-scoring one. So that whole thing about, India being much better abroad and all that still hasn't been realized, and that's the sort of objective. But they don't seem to have a game plan. And I think the worst thing about that loss, Ali, was that it's not the 10-wicket win or loss. It was the fact that New Zealand had a game plan. They thought out the batsmen. They went with the short pitch bowling and then pushed the fuller one up. India didn't have a game plan. And I think that is really what must be worrying them the most. Not the defeat, but the manner of the defeat.
And Virat Kohli had a poor return in the match. And Jim, I'm sure it hasn't escaped your notice that because of Kohli's poor form, it's meant that Steve Smith is now back to being number one batter in the world again.
Yes, by default, really, because Smith hasn't played a test match for almost 2 months. And there he is having a bit of fun in South Africa. So They're both very good players. I think we should just leave it at that and forget about the number next to their name.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, haven't we? He was also announced as captain of Welsh Fire, the men's team in the 100 this week as well. So pretty good week, you could say, for Steve Smith. Right, let's turn to Australia, because it has been a dramatic opening week in the Women's 2020 World Cup, and it's already conjured up some quite surprising results.
Rodriguez comes in off the boundary. They come for a second. Throw on its way. Shoot, run out. Australia bowled out. India wins.
It's heaved away to the onside and South Africa win. England, like Australia, drop their opening match, and it's South Africa who celebrate and they rejoice in each other's arms.
Bismar, the Pakistan captain, drives it on the offside. It'll go for 4. She punches the air and Pakistan win. A wonderful performance by Pakistan, and their start to their World Cup campaign was well worth the wait.
Yeah, some cracking games there. Pakistan securing one of their biggest wins in tournament history, beating the former champions, the West Indies, in Group B. You heard the hosts and the holders, Australia, losing their opener to India, who have now romped into the semi-finals with a game to spare after a tight win over New Zealand. And then South Africa beat England for the first time at a T20 World Cup in Group B. Now, that one was a really tense finish in Perth, but it was the cool, calm and composed Mignon du Preez who took South Africa to a tight victory, hitting a 6 at a critical moment towards the end. At the non-strikers end at the time was spinner Sune Luus, who joins us now. Sune, welcome to Stumped.
Thank you very much.
Was that a little bit of a monkey off your back, beating England in a T20 World Cup?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the dream start we wanted to take the momentum into the World Cup. So really happy we could have pulled it off. I think we made it a bit difficult there for ourselves in the middle. But obviously, like you said, the composure shown by Mignon du Preez, hitting that 6 at a very crucial moment, just pushed us over the line. And yeah, we're very happy as a team.
Hi, Sune. It's Jim Maxwell in Sydney. So what's going to happen? South Africa got to the semi-final stage 6 years ago. Are you confident of going all the way this time?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have a very good chance, if not our best chance ever. So I think it's only 2 games away from us, the semi-final. So, I have Thailand tomorrow and then just 2 more games to go. So hopefully we can, either win the group stage or just, become second and then go to the semi-finals.
Hi, Sune. This is Sunil Gupta for All India Radio New Delhi. And we spoke to England's World Cup winner Catherine Brunt on last week's show. And she told us how this tournament feels bigger, especially as the final falls on International Women's Day. So do you feel a sense of how significant this World Cup is and how women's cricket has grown over the last decade?
Yes, definitely. I think it's one of the biggest tournaments I've ever been at. I think the build-up, it was such a long and big build-up, and finally to be in Australia playing our matches, you can just feel the vibe and the energy just around wherever you go. So I think it's a really good tournament. I think the ICC did a very good job at, entertaining and, marketing the big event. So hopefully we can get just, good crowds in every single game and just promote the women's game even more.
I have to ask you, Sune, at the end of that England game, you could have been run out at the non-strikers end with, there were 4 balls to go, 7 needed to win. You were backing up. It was known as the Mankad, of course. Catherine Brunt gave you a warning. Generally speaking, you're a bowler. Are you a fan of the law that allows that kind of run out at the non-strikers end?
Well, I mean, it is in the laws of the cricket. So if you feel like you need to do it, it's your choice. But personally, for me, I will never do it. I'll rather bowl you out. But no, I mean, she could have done it. Just fortunate that she didn't.
Are you sure you'd never do it? I mean, we've been talking about this and thinking about this. If the World Cup was on the line, if that was the final, would you affect a run out like that? And is it something that also that you discuss as a team? Is there a sense of a team ethos, or is it just left to the individual in the moment?
No, I don't think we've ever discussed it. I think it's kind of just left to the individual in the moment. But I think we'll, once we get to the World Cup final, I'll let you know afterwards what I was thinking if the opportunity presented itself.
Well, it's been great to have a chat with you. Good luck getting to the semi and then onwards if you can make it to the final as well. It's been a fantastic start for you all. Thanks for joining us on Stumped and good luck going forwards.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
So that is Sune Luus. A fantastic victory for South Africa. It really was. But it caused a lot of debate on social media in particular and in commentary boxes, Jim and Sunil, to Mankad or not to Mankad. That is the question. And where do you both stand on it?
I like the approach of Sune. I think, historically, if there is a spirit of the game, the bowler should be warning the non-striker, but doesn't have to. Be warned. Batsman emptor.
Do you mind seeing it, Sunil?
I've said this before. Rules are rules for both bowlers and batsmen. And everybody should know the rules. And as Jim said, to take a batsman stepping out of the crease and getting a yard's advantage or even a 2-foot advantage gives them that little extra edge to make the other side. Otherwise, it could have been run out. So, if you're talking about sportsmanship, it cuts both ways. It's not sporting for the batsman to take that unfair advantage, as indeed the bowler, within the laws, is allowed to do that. So I don't really know why everybody gets so hot about it and doesn't say a word to the batsman.
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Why do we see it as so unsporting to run a batter out like this when it is part of the laws of the game? And for me, I guess it's sort of a cultural thing, isn't it? Almost going back to the way we're brought up to bat, even in the back garden, that backing up is a good thing to do, like learning how to run your bat in properly. But in actual fact, we're teaching kids how to gain an unfair advantage by leaving the crease before the bowlers release the ball.
Well, it's like the old days of batsmen walking when they nicked it. And you always worried when someone was known to be a walker, because there'd always be the day where they wouldn't walk. And nowadays you'd be found out by the technology if you did that. So there's certain, as you say, culture, customs, spirit of the game involved in all of this. And we seem to have moved away from this spirit in some ways.
No, and interestingly, Catherine Brunt, could have been run out that way herself during the England innings in that match when she had bat in hand, but herself was warned. Now, whether that, had an impact on the fact that she then gave a warning herself, but, in the heat of the moment, it hasn't really been tested, has it, with a world trophy on the line. And apparently within the England camp, I know that Natalie Siver was asked specifically about the running out possibilities in the presser after the game, and she was adamant that there was no way Catherine Brunt ever would have run somebody out like that. She said neither would any other bowler in the England team, but they wouldn't want that to come back and bite them or cost them. It could happen, but I think really under the pump and in the heat of pressure in the moment, maybe we will see something like this happen in the World Cup.
You can always start the over by the bowler telling the batsman, listen, if you're going to step out, I'm going to run you out, right? So you've given the warning beforehand.
Give them the warning
you don't
before.
have to say it after. Exactly. Then everybody knows exactly where you stand, rather than go through this whole thing of, honour and Boy Scout and all the rest of it. It's a game to be won.
Yeah, it does feel a little as if the culture is shifting in some quarters. I think it takes a little while to actually filter through. Just to remind everyone on what the law actually says, if the non-striker is out of his or her ground from the moment the ball comes into play to the instant when the bowler would normally have been expected to release the ball, the bowler is permitted to attempt to run him or her out. So it's pretty clear, but that is the law. Now, look, let's just stay with the tournament for a little bit longer. Jim, how do you feel the Aussies have recovered after losing that opener to India? Because that was a heck of a way for the tournament to start.
Well, whether or not they've got their mojo and confidence and the rest of it that everyone expected them to have under the scrutiny of being favourites at home remains to be seen. They could easily have lost to Sri Lanka as well, had Sri Lanka not crucially dropped some catches. So they could really have been out of the tournament after 2 games, I suppose. Now, whether or not they can regroup, is at least Perry 100% fit, remains to be seen. But it certainly made it fascinating, and it'll be a real damp squib, of course, if they do lose.
So, no, India, 3 wins from 3 into the semi-finals with a game to spare. What sort of coverage has it been attracting and attention in India?
Oh, well, it's live on TV, not just the India games, but all the games, which is really good to see. And when India plays, it gets the headlines on the sports pages at least. People are talking about it, and it's really newsworthy, especially the fact that now India have won 3 out of 3. They've beaten Australia, they've beaten New Zealand, who've been their nemesis, really.
Yeah, for sure. I've really been enjoying some of the results that have been going against the grain, as we were highlighting earlier. And it's been intriguing watching Thailand. I thought they fielded brilliantly when they opened their campaign. And watching them against the West Indies in particular. But I also noticed the record figures that are already stacking up. So the opening match between Australia and India at the Sydney Showground attracted a crowd of 13,432, which was more than triple the record attendance for Women's International previously in Australia, which was only just over 4,000 at Women's Ashes at Mankad Oval, a T20 in 2017. I mean, none of this actually surprises me because the promotion of the event and the availability of the coverage is superior to any other women's cricket event. So it's been given the platform, and now that the players are performing on it. Now, look, we sometimes end the show here on Stumped with a Stumped salute, where we give credit to a cricketer who has gone above and beyond. This week, it's, not exactly a salute. I don't know what the opposite of a salute would be, but this is for US President Donald Trump, because it was something which went viral. I'm sure you've both seen it. He was in India this week addressing 100,000 Indians at the Namaste Trump rally at the Sardar Patel Stadium in Ahmedabad, which is the world's largest cricket stadium. During his speech, he ventured into giving a mention to the country's biggest cricketing icon and the current Indian captain. This is how it played out.
Where your people cheer on some of the world's greatest cricket players, from Sachin, Tendulkar to Virat, Kohli.
Yep, kind of, Sunil. How did that go down?
Well, three of the words were not too bad. So 3 out of 4, I think, gives him pass marks. But the very fact that he mentioned Indian cricket and Indian cricketers, irrespective of how he pronounced them. I mean, his spin doctors are working overtime to get that in. And it went down, gangbusters. And everybody just loved it. So it didn't matter how he pronounced them. The very fact that he did bring them up in a speech like that, I think, was the centerpiece.
Well tried.
Well, they say that kind of mispronunciation, but they'll become even more legendary because their names have been mispronounced or played with. And in this case, that may well be the situation thanks to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I did notice that the ICC had a little bit of a dig. They posted a video where they had Sachin's name replaced in the official record books as Sachin Tendulkar. So it's already happening. Well, that's it for this week's Stumped on All India Radio. You can follow us on social media. We're at BBCWS Sport and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. My thanks to Sunil Gupta and Jim Maxwell. Make sure you join us again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.